Welcome into the Late Night Gamecock Show. It is January 29th. Gosh, Alex, I don't know where this time has gone. Like it was just New Year's and now it's about to be February.
Flying by. It's flying. I mean, it's hard to believe we're already this far through basketball season.
Yeah, and that's the saddest part of the year. Normally I get sad during like March Madness because I'm like, okay, well, like we have 3 more weekends of college basketball, but it has flown. It really has. But tonight on the show, we're going to talk a little bit about women's basketball. If you haven't been paying attention, the women rolled in Knoxville Monday night. They are now 20-1 on the season and 8-0 in conference play. And looking at men's basketball, well, it's not like women's basketball. The men dropped a game in Athens last night. I'm sure most of you watched it. 71 to 60. The men fall to under 500 for the first time this season at 10-11 and 0-8. 0-8 in SEC play. Football had a big recruiting weekend. We'll have Alex fill us in on that. The final 24 sports or 24/7 sports football recruiting rankings have come out for players and teams, so that's always exciting. We'll dig into all of that. And we have plenty more on the show tonight, so we appreciate you being here with us. And Alex, how about you roll those sponsors or the intro?
Welcome to the Late Night Gamecock Show from Chief Sports, South Carolina. Here are your hosts, Matt Anderson and Alex Jones of theBigSpur.com.
So this is the Late Night Gamecock Show. We appreciate all of you for joining us tonight. Alex, the women's team is crushing it. The men's team, not so much. Let's start off with the women's team. Obviously, the women are 20-1 overall, 8-0 in conference play. And yeah, I got to be honest, I don't watch every single women's game. Sometimes like there's just different things on Sundays. And Sundays is the prime time opportunity to watch the women. But I did watch them against Tennessee this past weekend. And look, Tennessee had a raucous environment that they wanted that game. They believed. I don't know if you caught this, Alex, but the Tennessee head coach gave birth 6 days prior to the game against the women's team. And I mean, I thought Tennessee played inspired. I thought that the Gamecocks kind of just did what they did. I thought it was one of their tougher games on the season, but they just keep winning. I think it's what now, Alex, over 50 consecutive SEC wins.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, it's crazy. And, when you think back to looking back at that Tennessee game, I mean, South Carolina had a pretty big lead or, a comfortable lead going into the fourth quarter. And Tennessee battled back and ended up being a 7-point game. But it didn't feel as close as it was because Tennessee kind of upped the pressure a little bit, made some shots there at the end to make that game closer than it was. But, South Carolina's had a stretch here. I mean, their schedule, we knew it wasn't going to be easy, but you look at what they've done here recently. They've got, I think it's 5 straight against ranked wins or 5 straight ranked wins. They had the Texas game, and then they had Alabama, Oklahoma, LSU, the big one in Columbia last Friday, got moved to Friday because of the weather. Won that one by 10, and then Tennessee was 18 in the country when they played them. So I mean, they're rolling. It looks like they're playing their best ball right now. I think one of the big things for them right now is Joyce Edwards is really starting to come along. I mean, she's playing really well. And I think with her, it was just, maybe adjusting to the college game because we knew how good she was in high school. But early on, her adjusting to the college game. And now, I mean, the other night she had 18 points and 5 rebounds. And she definitely looks like she's, the big time future player for South Carolina. And she's playing extremely well, as the whole team.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at, 7 of their 8 conference games have been 10+ point wins, and some of those games have just been embarrassing for the other team. It's what Dawn does, and it's a standard of excellence that has been brought to the University of South Carolina. I know we touched on it before, but Dawn is worth every penny of her contract, if not more. And you look forward to the next couple of games. There are going to be 2 games before we get back here in front of y'all on a Late Night Gamecock Show. Auburn comes to Colonial Life Arena this upcoming Sunday at noon. That'll be an unranked game, and it'll also be an unranked game when they travel to Florida next week. But then next Sunday, a humongous game against number 5 Texas at Texas. And look, Dawn, she schedules so tough in the non-conference. Like, she knows that even though the SEC and women's college basketball right now is considered the best league in the conference, or not in the conference, but in the country, she schedules tough, and it doesn't end because you go to Texas here in a couple of weeks, and I'm sure that will be college game day. It'll be a crazy environment down there in Austin. Austin's really started supporting the women's sports too. I don't know what's going to happen, but I feel like the Gamecocks will be a favorite. But you have that game, and then what is it? Looking at the dates here, Sunday, February 16th, you have the Connecticut Huskies and Gino and Paige Becker coming into Colonial Life Arena for a Sunday game. Alex, I don't know if you've looked at it, but have you seen what the lowest ticket price is on Vivid Sports?
I imagine it's not cheap though.
No, the cheapest ticket you can find is $108 to that game, and that's over 2 weeks away.
It's crazy, but it shows the hype that's going to be around that game. I mean, that's been a rivalry that's been kind of forming here, for every year they've been playing here recently. And I mean, it's a fun game to watch, either be in person or be in TV. It's just, whether it's in Colonial Life or up in UConn, you can just feel the intensity in it.
Absolutely. And it's one of those games where Dawn does not have to schedule that game. She does it because she wants to boost the audience for the women's game. And it's just what an opportunity. It's going to be huge. And yeah, I see that some comments in here. Yeah, South Carolina did beat Texas by 17 at home earlier in the season, but now you're going to Austin, and it's going to be crazy. It's absolutely going to be crazy, and I can't wait to watch that game. I can't wait to watch the next couple games, honestly, Alex.
Yeah, and just to note, Sunday they're retiring Asia Wilson's jersey pregame before that Auburn game. So that's going to be a big moment for South Carolina, because for what she did for the program and now what she's doing in the WNBA.
Alex, I got a question for you, and this just popped in my head.
Okay,
how many players get a statue before they get their jersey retired?
That's incredible. That's pretty awesome. I mean, it's awesome, and it shows just what she did for that program and for the state and for the university. I mean, she was just a huge, maybe one of the biggest Dawn Staley recruits to start off and really kind of set the tone for the program. And obviously there were players before her that kind of helped build the foundation, but Asia Wilson was the one that really, to me, it kind of feels like took it to the next level.
I mean, I'm thinking in my head right now, I think that Michael Jordan might have gotten a statue before his jersey was retired, or at least before he went to the Hall of Fame, because he had that little stint with the Wizards. And I think that Jordan statue has been in front of the United Center now for going on 20 plus years. But yeah, Asia Wilson gets a statue before she gets her number retired. And those are funny university rules that just come into play. So kudos to the women's team. Look, we're going to celebrate them. They should be celebrated. They should get more publicity than they get right now by just the casual Gamecock fan, because you can argue men's baseball and women's basketball. Men's baseball, or just baseball, probably has the longest longest tradition of success, especially with 2 national titles and all the trips to Omaha. But over the past 15 years, oh my gosh, like this is a UConn from the 90s, from the 80s, a Tennessee from the 70s, from the 80s and the 90s that's in Columbia. So all credit and all kudos to Dawn Staley and what she's doing, because look, and Alex, we'll move on to men's basketball here in a second, but Kim Mulkey had that famous press conference quote a couple of days ago where, well, they're 6 through 10, they're 6 through 12 are all McDonald's All-Americans, but that's true. And look, Shane Beamer said that about Georgia a couple of years ago in the press conference when they lost. But the way that Dawn is able to coach these kids and get them all to say, we're all going to contribute. They all celebrate each other. It's really a pure sport and a pure team. And it's so fun to watch. Yeah, they might have the most talent in the country, but guess what? They also all play. It's not like you're putting someone on the bench that's going to transfer. I have no idea how many transfers Dawn has over the past 5 years, but I can't remember many of them.
Yeah, I can't either. And it's the depth. I mean, obviously their starting five can beat anybody in the country, but it's just the depth of the team that takes that team to the next level because, a lot of teams don't have the depth that South Carolina has. So when they're, rolling 8, 9 deep on the bench, that just wears teams down. You can see that happen every game.
Yeah, especially and I promise we're going to go to men's here soon, but I just want to say one more thing. Dawn Staley's been the women's national team coach in the Olympics, and she's melding personalities that are all the very best of the best. It's not very much different than Coach K when he was the men's team's coach. And look, he had to meld Kobe, LeBron, KD, Carmelo, and some of those documentaries are interesting to watch, but Coach K only had to do it once every 4 years. Dawn Staley has to do it every single year and still keep getting these girls to come to the University of South Carolina. So all credit to her, all credit to that team. It's been a lot of fun to watch, and we just cheer for her, and we cheer for the women's sport in general. Moving on to men's side, Alex, as we mentioned at the top of the show, men's dropped a game last night in Athens, Georgia, 71-60 to the Georgia Bulldogs. I was on the on Inside the Gamecocks, the morning show earlier today with Jamie and Will, and I told them that was the game last night worried me because you had played and given everything that you had, squeezed every bit of ability that you had into the last couple games against Mississippi State, Florida, Auburn, on the cusp of a victory. And I just felt like a midweek road game against a team that needs the win just as much as you do. Because, Georgia was 2-4 going into last night and in SEC play, or 2-5, whatever it was.
2-5, yeah.
Yeah, 2-5. And don't get me wrong, Georgia is a more talented team top to bottom than South Carolina, and you're on the road. And Alex, I'm going to tee you up here for this, but you can't turn the ball over 10 times in the first half, making 1 3-pointer on the road and not expect to be a double digit, I don't want to say underdog, but double digit, team going into halftime.
Yeah, and I think with this team they have to get off to good starts. And last night they did not get off to a good start. I think they were down. It got to 14-3 14-3. Georgia had all the momentum in that game, and offensively, the story of this team here recently has been the turnovers. And then I think on their first 9 possessions they had 6 turnovers. That's just not a good way to in any game, but especially on the road, you get the team just even more momentum and more energy. And then South kind of found a way to kind of battle back there in the first half. They got it close, and then those turnovers just kind of came back a little bit. They couldn't get a lot of threes to fall. And Georgia's talented. Asa Newell, he's really good. He was a problem in the post last night. Those hook shots, it seems like he was automatic from there. And they couldn't really. And then the second half, they had Jamari Thomas was really good in the second half, and really was kind of keeping that game within reach for the most part. It was kind of in that 10-13 range for the most part, and South Carolina really just couldn't get much closer. I think Georgia kind of let up a little bit there towards the end, and Jamari Thomas was playing well. But at the end of the day, your slow start, kind of hurt you. You found a way to work back into it, but Georgia just got the best of again. And I feel like the past 3 weeks we've been on here talking about the turnovers and how they have to get better, and it's not getting better. And it just seems like they're trying to find the answers to what they can do to fix that, and they just haven't quite found them yet.
Yeah, they haven't. And look, I always say basketball is a game of runs. You want the best run and you want the last run of a game, and you'll probably win. Honestly, you'll probably win if you do that. You can have the best run of the game and hold on tight to your britches and still win a game. You don't always have to have the last one, but the best run in the game matters. And if you look at the first 16 minutes or the first 4 minutes at under 16 timeout, Georgia was +7. And then I think South Carolina was +3 and whatever. And they got to 18-16. But then and you look at the under 8 to 4 minutes, Georgia was +7. And then the under 4 minutes, they were +9 or something. And that's how they bumped that lead up there. And look, give South Carolina credit. They outscored Georgia in the second half. But like people don't realize, and people realize it. Maybe I'm just being like, I'm over sensationalizing it, but like those 4-minute stretches matter. Like there is a media timeout and you have to reset and you have to refocus and you have to go on a run of your own. And you can't expect to be down at halftime and go +3 in the second half on the road and win the game. South Carolina had their chances. I mean, they got it to within 10, within 8. I don't think they ever got it to within 7 in the second half. But like at some point, teams like loosen up in the second half because they know they have a lead and they're, it's not NBA or hockey where it's line changes all the time, but coaches are going to rest some players and say, okay, I got a 5-possession lead. Let's see if I can, how many possessions can I get before I have to bring this guy in before it's a 3-possession game? I thought that Georgia's coach did that great last night. And then when they threw that press on at the end of the game, in the last 8 minutes, it really discombobulated what the Gamecocks wanted to do. And like, I give Lamont so much credit, Alex, because look, say what you want about roster construction, say what you want about, NIL, whatever. I don't care. But like this team right now, what Lamont Parrish is doing with it in the games, there is absolutely no reason that this Gamecocks basketball team on the men's side should be down to the wire with Mississippi State, Auburn, and Florida. And look, they're all home games. And I've said this, like Colonial Life Arena, when the fans pack it out, it makes a difference. And like, kudos to the fans. Like, I'm so happy you're there. I've been preaching that all season, but continue to show up because like this season, look, it might be lost. They're 10-11. They're 0-8 in the SEC. They got 10 more SEC games, the SEC tournament. Even thinking about the NIT, the CBI, like heck, I mean, there are a lot of other teams and other conferences that don't have to play the schedule the Gamecocks have to play after starting 10-11 and 0-8. But that, I don't know, Alex, what do you think? I mean, in my mind, and I promise I'm going to stop talking here in like 10 seconds, but like it just seems like you have a lot of square pegs that you're trying to ram into round holes.
I think the turnovers, if they just cut down on half of those, they win a lot of these games that they've been so close in. I mean, you think about the Auburn game, and it's little things that are hurting them. In the Auburn game, you had chances to win that game in the end. You couldn't do it. Florida, you pretty much controlled that Florida game, and then they brought that press on, and it was it from there. I mean, you couldn't handle the press, and I think you could argue that maybe if Jamari Thomas is in that game, that South kind of finds a way to at least not turn it over, as much with that press, at least handle the pressure a little bit better. South kind of finds a way to win that. And Mississippi State, you just kind of found a way to battle back into it. And that 1-3-1 really kind of bothered Mississippi State, and you found your way back into it. And obviously, by the end of the day, you couldn't find a way to win any of them. So I think it's just they've got to clean up little things. The little things are hurting this team right now. And if they can do that here down the stretch, there's some opportunity that they can find some wins down the stretch. But, they keep at this turnover rate of double digits and high teens turnovers every game. This league is unforgiving, and I mean in most leagues, in most SEC seasons, that's not going to help you, or that's going to hurt you, and especially this season because these teams are so good.
Yeah, and Alex, last night Alex was in Athens. He was covering the game for thebigspur.com, and about 10 p.m. you texted me, and look, I say it's a late night Gamecock show, 10 p.m. after a Gamecock game, after dinner, kids in bed, all that kind of stuff. I'm asleep. But I woke up this morning to Alex around like 6 a.m. and he texted me at 10. He said, I'm in this press conference and this is the first time I really don't know, like Lamont doesn't know what to say. Like, and it's not a situation where he's like, I don't know how to fix this. I mean, if you actually listen to his quotes, he said, look, I've been coaching a long time. There are a lot of things that, and I'm paraphrasing, like this is not Lamont talking in my voice, but there are a lot of things that are just garden variety. It's things that I've never seen happen. And, I told Alex earlier, and I don't know how many of you guys are pet owners, but, I've had a couple puppies and, you try and potty train them and say like, no, we go to the bathroom outside. Like you spank them, you put them in the kennel, you put their nose in it. And I promise you, all those things that you do for like a puppy and you're trying to potty train them is what Lamont, this coaching staff, is doing in practice.
And just real quick, I'm going to read the quote that he had last night, kind of talking about the turnovers. He says, quote, "It's a combination of decisions, maybe lack of confidence as a ball handler, as a passer. It's receivers that aren't presenting themselves as wide open, maybe. I think it's been a culmination of all those things. Certainly that part is frustrating for me. I'm not trying to lend or shirk any blame in the whole deal. Trust me, with a fine-tooth comb, I go through everything that we're doing, from practice plans to what this looks like in a game to can we modify this play to what normally ends up with a catch on the wing. Can we modify it to where there's no more catch on the wing? It takes one pass out and one less chance to turn the ball over. It's like solving a Rubik's Cube. We would keep it at it until we just find out the right combination of things that we do and people that are out there with one another to where we can get the turnovers to a reasonable number." So I think when you could hear it in his voice too, but then, reading that quote, it's just they're still trying to find the answers. And I think it's just becoming difficult that I think it's just frustrating for the Lamont Paris and the rest of the coaching staff and really the team that they can't find those answers to why those turnovers keep happening. And you start to wonder a little bit if it's just becoming a mental thing for them that maybe they're trying so hard to not make a turnover that the turnovers happen. So it's just something that is got to be fixed if they want to find any success here down the stretch.
Yeah, I mean the turnovers, and I would say over half of the turnovers, like there are so many armchair quarterbacks, next day quarterbacks that just say, I can't believe this guy made this throw, or I can't believe this guy tried to shoot that ball, whatever. Like you're not doing it. Like you're not out there trying to, make this a 2-possession game when it's, you're down by 9 and you're trying to hit a 3, or you're down by 6 and you're trying to make a layup. Like sometimes you just take angles, you take things that you think are available, and sometimes they're just not. And look, I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth, but if you were to look at this team in the preseason, and Alex and I did, like I thought this team would be better. I really did. I thought Cam Scott would be better as a freshman, and I was relying on Cam Scott. I gave Cam Scott a lot of credit, and I still give him credit. He's a really good basketball player. But sometimes when you go from high school straight to the SEC and this SEC, it's difficult. And it's not necessarily like this kid just sucks now. It's, okay, well, how do I play in this team? What is my role in this team? What shots can I take? What shots can I not take? And for a freshman, thinking about that in the game is difficult, especially if you're a highly ranked kid that everyone's looking to and saying, this guy should be fantastic. Like he was a top 50 recruit in the country. We thought one and done. Like, no, it doesn't always happen that way. And like Cam Scott is a great kid. He's a kid that his teammates love. He loves his teammates. He's around all the time. He's trying to get better. I mean, heck, Lamont Paris said in the preseason, if Cam Scott's not a all SEC freshman, then I'll be shocked. So, I mean, like, look, sometimes like you hit a wall, and you talk about the freshman wall all the time, and sometimes you hit it, and maybe he's hitting it. But like, look, Arden Conyers last year was redshirted. Morris Ugasuk was supposed to be redshirted. And look at Arden right now. I think Arden's figuring it out. I think that the coaches are still working with him. Like that kid, like when he first started, he was 100 miles per hour and he looked crazy on offense. But like I can tell you in the practices and the scrimmages, he didn't go 100 miles per hour. He had to get in the game and figure it out. And Morris Ugasuk, oh my gosh, like last year versus this year, he looks like a phenomenal future basketball player. Maybe not right now. So I say all that to say before we hit a break from our partners that this team is a team you're going to have to ride with. Lamont and the coaching staff have to keep running their sets. They have to give these guys opportunities to figure out what they're supposed to do. And look, it's 0-8. And I hate to use like a Bobby Boucher, the Waterboy quote, but like every game seems like the last game of the season, can't hold anything back. Like, these guys have to develop, and like these reps are going to be so important. And I will say this, y'all, I'm telling you, I really do think Lamont Paris is one of the best X and O's coaches in college basketball. I think he's one of the best like preparation coaches in college basketball. And I'm not sitting here screaming to say, give $20 million to basketball NIL. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that like, I don't think anybody expected this season, and it's difficult and it's frustrating. And I know it hurts. I know it hurts, especially if you gave NIL. If you gave NIL, thank you. I hope you continue to do it for this basketball team. But like this team, it hurts and it doesn't get any better because, for fans, it hurts because you've seen the potential. You've seen the Auburn game. You saw the Florida game. I mean, how many coaches in America could really take a team that lost by 35 points on the road at Mississippi State, take that team to overtime and have a chance to win the game? Just 2.5 weeks later, Alex? 2 weeks later? So, I mean, like, if you want to doubt Lamont Paris, go ahead. But I'm just telling you, that's not something I would do. Like this season, put a fork in it. Like it sucks.
Yeah, I 100% agree with everything you just said. And, moving forward with the team, I think you just want to see some things down this stretch. You want to see guys like Arden Conyers and Cam Scott show improvement when they do get in. Arden Conyers is obviously playing more right now. And as you mentioned, he is improving and he's showing improvement. You want to see guys like Morris, he, like you mentioned, again, he's showing improvement. He looks like a better player than last year. You want to see some of those pieces that are coming back, even like a Zach Davis too, like keep showing ways to improve, for the future. Obviously you're not going to quit on the season, but you just want to continue seeing progress from the team. And, I think, just continue to, I think the mentality of the team, they come out and fight every game. There hasn't been any quit on this team. You can tell that they're going out there and fighting every game. So I don't expect that to change. I think Lamont Paris is, keeping this team together, and he's doing a good job at that because it's just been a struggle for him. And as you mentioned, there was a lot of potential, a lot of, I think hype surrounding this team, and just some things haven't come together that were key parts that we talked about in the preseason that needed to come together for them to reach that potential. And it just hasn't happened. They still have some games here to, find a way to find some success. But, I think we've kind of hit the nail on the head of what the issues are. And it's just some things that need to see if they can figure out here moving forward.
Yeah. And before we hit a partner break, I do want to take note of a comment in the chat box. And look, WJM41, I love you to death. I think you're really smart. I think you're a great addition to this show, and we love your commentary. But he did say there's no scheme on offense. They are lost. I think that he's right, and they are lost. But the scheme is there. They just can't execute the scheme. Like when Jacoby Wright dribbles into three guys that are all 6'7" or taller, like he's doing what the play calls for. And then he gets stuck. And you can say well, tell Jacoby Wright to hang out at the 3-point line or 15 feet and in or dribble it out. But you can't run an offense if you're not getting through your progressions. And it's similar to a quarterback and a wide receiver. Like you have to see what's available, what's open. You have to do the thing that gets you open. And I've seen Colin Murray Boyles just put his hands in his head, like just so frustrated, or talk to somebody and put his hands, right next to someone and say, you have to be here. Like right now, it really does feel like the JV team is scrimmaging against varsity teams, and the JV team has talent. They have athletes, they have ball players, but you're going to have to play a perfect game and you might win. But if you play a 98% perfect game and the varsity team just decides hey, this game is over, you're going to lose every single time. And that's what's happening right now with South Carolina. I think there's just so many players that are a year or two away. I cannot wait to see Arden Conyers in the future. I really can. I think Eli Ellis is going to be really good. You talk about freshmen, but Morris Ugasuk, I said last year on this show all the time, just wait, that kid's going to be really, really good. And he will be, but this year is just a down year.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we've kind of hit everything with basketball so far. Obviously, they got Texas A&M on Saturday, 8:30 SEC Network, going to be a late game. Texas A&M's obviously a ranked team, just like pretty much every team in the SEC is, it seems like this year. It's just another opportunity for South Carolina. Going to be a late tip Saturday night.
Yep. Well, Alex, let's listen to our partners, and then we'll come back, talk some football.
Mike here for one of the better dining options in the capital city. You know, when I first moved there, I asked people around the radio station, where are the best wings? Well, the consensus was D's Wings. That was then. Today, they still have the best wings, but it's so much more. Now in their new location at 415 Meeting Street in West Columbia, yeah, they get voted the best wings on a routine basis. Yes, they get voted the best sports bar on a routine basis, but they're not just about wings, and really, they're not just a sports bar. It is a family-run local restaurant and bar with 20 TVs and 25 beers on tap. And how about these daily specials? Every Monday night at D's, you've got 75-cent wings from 4 until closing. Tacos on Tuesday. Then on Wednesday, 18 wings and a pitcher of beer for $29. You've also got ribs and oyster bucket specials on Thursday. And no matter how big the party is, 20 or more, no problem. Just call ahead of time and they'll take terrific care of you. They'll do takeout as well. And guess what? A human will answer the phone and take the order. Billy and his staff do an outstanding job. Check out D's 415 Meeting Street in West Columbia.
Welcome back into the Late Night Gamecock Show. And Alex, I've already had dinner tonight, obviously. But, I mean, Alex, you might not have. You have a go-to late night menu. You don't eat. I mean, like, you have to work all day, and then you get here at 8 o'clock, and you have to work till 9. It's crazy. But D's Wings, I'm hungry now.
Yeah, I know. I could go for some D's Wings right now. I mean, maybe that could be go ahead and plan in maybe a lunch, dinner tomorrow night. I think it's going to be D's Wings.
I love it. Yeah. Hey, by the way, don't forget to check out Inside the Gamecocks, the show. People wanted more. They got more. And now you have the morning show from 10 to 12 with Jamie Bradford and numerous guests. And then from 12 to 2, you have JC and Phil and other guests. And it's 4 hours of content every single day. Alex and I are both contributors to that show. You have JC and Morgan. You have Joe Machika and what he's doing. There's some exciting things that are still in the works. And look, if you haven't told your friends about this network, please do. The Chief Sports Network is the only place you're going to find at least 4 hours of coverage every single weekday on the Gamecocks. And I know I talk to people all the time, like, I hate listening to sports radio. I don't care about the NBA. Tell me about the Gamecocks. Well, this is where you can find your Gamecock talk. So really quick, before we get to football, Alex, and you do not have to comment on this. I'm just going to comment on it because I want to. I've seen some comments here. When you don't have guys to run the scheme, you find a new way to win as a coach. Find what you do. Go and beat the other team. And Alex, to me, and you don't have to comment. I'm not going to make you comment on this, but it's the same thing. It's like saying, okay, well, we're 2/3 of the way into our college football season. We're going to revamp the entire offense and we're going to have a new play caller. We're going to teach these guys new plays. Like, it's difficult. Like, yeah, you could throw the ball and say, just play street ball all day. And, that's not going to make anybody better in the long run, but you have to run your stuff. And like, you talk about a program, like you're seeing it right now, actually, with John Calipari. Like, over the last 5 years, like, he's like, okay, I'm just going to get the best players. I'm going to teach them my system for 1 year, and then they're going to go pro, and I'm going to get more. Like, good luck with that. Like, seriously, good luck with that. You see what's happened to Arkansas. I mean, I don't know if Arkansas has won a game in SEC. I haven't paid attention to the last 2 days, but I think they're winless as well. So you can.
They won one.
Yeah, they won one. So you can do it one way or you can do it the other way. Someone says it looks like we don't run many set plays. I watch them run set plays all the time. I watch them not execute the set plays. Like, that's what I see. So that's basketball. And look, I'm not trying to come down on anybody. I feel the pain. I mean, I'm a South Carolina graduate. You know what I mean? Like, I want the Gamecocks to do well. It hurts. It hurts to watch. But Alex, let's go ahead and dive into this football recruiting weekend. Golly, Alex, how many 2026, 2027? I don't know if there are any 28s, like 28s. Like, oh my gosh. Like, I just think about how old my kid will be when 2028 comes. But all right, go ahead, Alex. Let's talk about this weekend.
Yeah, so we'll start with some 2026 guys offensively. I think the two everybody really talks about offensively with this group that came in this weekend. We'll start with wide receiver Ryan Mosley, wide receiver out of Carrollton, Georgia. South Carolina's, battling for him. He told me he has Carolina at the top, after the visit. And I think it's going to be one where, probably see a decision somewhere in June, probably with him. And I think, it's not going to be easy for them because, they got a lot of, he's a talent of, I think he's a 91 composite 4-star, 218 overall. He's got offers from all over the place. He was at Georgia, I think, the weekend before. So there's going to be a lot of teams coming after him, but it seems like South Carolina's put themselves in a good spot. Gordon Sellers is another one. He was in town, and it sounds like things went really well for him. Another 4-star wide receiver. He goes to Providence Day up in Charlotte. South Carolina always trying to get up in that North Carolina area, and especially in this 2026 class. Like, the state of South Carolina is really good for 2026, but North Carolina is also going to be really loaded too. And there's going to be a lot of different programs coming in there to try to recruit these kids. But, Gordon Sellers, ranked as, 405 overall in the composite. But, I think in 24/7, they have him number 40. He's actually I think it was this morning, he scheduled an official visit for South Carolina the weekend of June 6th. Keenan Britt, linebacker commit, that was also in town. He's going to be in. He announced that early this afternoon. He's also going to be in for that June 6th official visit weekend. So, I think South Carolina's in a good spot for both of those guys. And it's going to be interesting with the wide receiver class just because of how many guys they signed in this last class, having 6. I wonder, just how many they'll take. But I don't think, those two guys, if they both wanted to come, I don't think they're going to turn both of those guys down. Carson Baker, running back from Langston Hughes in Fairburn, Georgia. He was also in. This guy, he may be a top of the board guy for them, as far as for Markel Blackwell. They've been after this guy for a while, and I feel like I'm going to say this with a lot of these guys, but there's going to be a lot of teams coming after him. Auburn, Georgia, Kentucky, Tennessee are all after him, but South Carolina has made him a priority, and I think he feels that. And we'll see. Continue to watch this one down the road, but I feel like he could be a guy who could see his rankings continue to rise as well. Just kind of sticking with the offensive side of the ball, William Vaughn, tight end from Kings Mountain, North Carolina, was in. I put in a crystal ball pick for him. I think South Carolina's, positioned themselves well, and we'll just continue to follow that one kind of here down the stretch. That's the offensive guys. Anything you want to add to that?
Honestly, Alex, I thought that was pretty thorough. Just with these type of events, these coaches already have relationships with a lot of the players that are on campus. Like, a lot of these kids have visited, and this is an opportunity for the coaches to say, like, this is our university. In a lot of ways, it's like a group official visit. That's the best way I can explain it. Yeah, you're not going to Hall's Steakhouse or wherever, but you're going to have really, really good food. You're going to be around your position coach. You're going to be a future position coach, potentially. You're going to be around the defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator. The parents have an opportunity to be around the coaching staff, hear about how their kids are going to be nurtured, how they're going to be molded, how they're going to be, student athletes. So, this is such a big opportunity for these players to be here. And, I think it's great. And I think the star-studded names that you kind of just reeled off there, it's fun to pay attention to, and it's fun to watch. But this is I guess I'm trying to find the best way to say it, Alex, but recruiting now starts 24 months before you sign. And that might mean 24 months before you sign in the early signing period, like in December.
Yeah.
Back in the day, I remember, gosh. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I was just agreeing. I say it starts extremely early. You kind of mentioned it at the start. Already talking about you've seen some offers going to 2028 kids, or, some talk of 2028 kids. It's hard to believe. It's hard to even imagine talking about that, knowing that those players wouldn't even suit up for whoever until 2029. But it's crazy. But, yeah, sorry. Didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're good. So, you look at those offensive players that you just reeled off, and then, there are a ton of defensive guys here too. So, Alex, why don't you go into the defensive guys, and then we'll have an overarching conversation.
Yeah, so looking at the defensive linemen they brought in, just kind of highlighting a few of them. Rodney Dunham, defensive end from Charlotte, North Carolina. He's going to be one of the top recruits in this class just overall. Maybe he's probably a top of the board guy overall for South Carolina, but right now 24/7 has him ranked number 9 in the country. He's a 6'4", 227 edge out of Myers Park up there in Charlotte. But he's a guy who, they've been on for a while, and there's legit interest for him for South Carolina. I mean, he visited a lot over for games, and I think the team to watch. I've heard JC say this as well as Tennessee. Tennessee's recruited really well in North Carolina. I think they got maybe the top 2 prospects this last cycle in North Carolina. So they're going to be a team to watch, and obviously they've had some success with that position. You think about James Pierce this year; he's going to probably be a first-round draft pick, but with Ronnie Dunham, they positioned themselves well, and he continues to visit and just continue to follow this one. Another one that was kind of interesting was Brian Harris, the defensive lineman out of Jacksonville, Florida, goes to Mandarin. He's 6'4", 290. He's a Maryland commit. He's been committed to Maryland since I think early August. 3-star guy, but he could be a guy who continued to rise in rankings. And South Carolina offered him not too long before the visit. I think it was sometime last week, but he came in, and it sounds like South Carolina made a pretty good impression with obviously you always hear about the visits go really well, but it sounds like a lot of these guys, specifically Brian Harris, South Carolina made a impression on him. So that's just some of the guys. You think about this safety class, and they had some guys this weekend. They've already got Jazavian Currents, who's in state. There's 3 safeties right now in state who are all high level recruits. Jazavian Currents, South Carolina's got him committed already. He was in town. Contavion Anderson from Roebuck goes to Dorman. I mean, he's a guy who right now is continuing to rise in the rankings. I mean, top 120 guy by 24/7 Sports. I think Clemson and South Carolina are the teams to watch with him, but he's continuing to get a lot of interest as well, and he continues to come back. And South Carolina was in on him early. And then Tamarian Watkins out of Northwestern, this guy who I saw last March up in Rock Hill at some practices, and thought he looked really good, and he's really just blown up. I mean, he keeps getting offers. I mean, I feel like every day he's getting a new offer. I think Alabama's offered him, Georgia, Texas A&M recently. So he's continuing to rise the rankings, but South Carolina's positioned well for him as well. South Carolina's recruited in state obviously really well, and I think that they got a good chance to continue that. And it's pretty, with those 3 guys, they got all pretty good chance to land all 3 of those guys, and we'll see just what happens. But obviously with the 2 guys, you got Currents already committed, but I like where South Carolina stands for both of those guys, and we'll continue to follow it. But there was a lot of talent this weekend for this junior day coming in, and I think they obviously there's some 2027s too that they made impressions on and made up a lot of ground, and could be leading for a few of those guys as well.
Yeah, it's incredible, because I was a little worried, honestly, like when they had this scheduled for a week earlier, I believe, and like the weather and stuff like that, and then you saw the snow come in, and they had to try and get everybody there, and like who wants to drive on the ice, all that kind of stuff. But like the guys and the families that they got in there, hats off to them, because it really is like a group official visit when these kids come in for a junior day. And I don't think they're called junior days anymore. They used to be junior days. They're not, but it's crazy. So look, what Shane's doing with his entire coaching staff, building these relationships early, like NIL is always going to come into play at some point and to some degree for every single player. But I think the future's bright. Looking forward, Alex, well, I guess it's looking backwards, but it's still looking forwards. We had on January 29th, 2025, the final recruiting rankings for individual players and teams come out on 24/7 Sports. It's crazy that, half the guys that the Gamecocks signed are already, enrolled in school and going through workouts. But the Gamecocks did finish 19th in the country this year in recruiting, looking at some teams ahead of them in the SEC and teams that they play in the future. Oklahoma, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Florida, Texas A&M, LSU, Auburn, Alabama, and Georgia. So you look at that and you say, oh my God, like 19th in the country sounds awesome, but like they're behind like 8, 9, 10 other teams. I think that's just life in the SEC. That's life in college football, especially for South Carolina, just being a team that doesn't have the trophy case, doesn't have, the long-term tradition that a lot of these teams have. But I would just say, like, look, when you look at teams, maybe 4 to 11, throw them in a hat. You look at teams 12 to 25, throw them in a hat, like whichever class is better. You just don't know how you're going to hit. But this particular recruiting class, Alex, ended up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 4-stars. And this is 24/7 Sports recruiting rankings. If I do the composite, we'll see how many they ended up with. Give my computer a second. But yeah, I mean, WJM41 says it right. The 15th in the country is usually bottom half of the SEC. In the composite ranking, the Gamecocks were 19th. So, I mean, you look at it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. You have 11 guys in the composite that were 4-stars. I mean, Alex, looking at it, I feel like the Gamecocks probably hit on, most of these kids as much as you can in recruiting. You don't know how they're going to pan out, but to get 8 to 11 players either in 24/7 or the composite to be 4-star or, I can't say or better because there's no 5-star players, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Alex, I feel like this recruiting class is deserving of their ranking.
Yeah, I think so. And kind of to your point earlier, South Carolina landed, or South Carolina, their 2025 commits and the final ranks today. I mean, guys made huge jumps. I mean, you think about Donovan Darden. He went from, I think he was unranked before. Now he's number 106 overall, and he's listed as an edge in 24/7, but he's going to start as a linebacker at South Carolina or start, enter his college career at linebacker. And he's a guy who, went to the Shrine Bowl and just really dominated and played linebacker there and really showed out in front of all the, analysts and all that. And that's why he rose the rankings. And he's one of the more intriguing guys in this class. I mean, he finished at a 94 rating, but he's a guy who could come in, I think. And, when you think about that linebacker room, you got Fred Johnson in there and Jerron Willis and, the two transfers they added. But he's a guy who, at the very least, he's going to be a special team. He could be a special teams guy, but I think he could come in and potentially make an impact right away. And he's just one that it was really interesting in following his recruitment because he came in for a spring game last year. And I think that right the day after South Carolina offered him, and it was kind of an under radar recruit from Havelock. And I think it was South Carolina really NC State were really battling for him, but South Carolina got him committed early, and then he continued to kind of blow up a little bit. Had a good senior season, and he's just one that's a really intriguing player here.
Yeah, I mean, Donovan Darden, I stood next to him. Didn't talk to him, but stood next to him. He's a strong, tall-looking kid. I mean, to be that big and that strong and that tall and that lean at that age is crazy. I mean, obviously, Alex, we talked this recruiting class to death, but Malik Clark, Shedrick Surratt Jr., Kendall Daniels Jr., Brian Rowe, Lex Cyrus, Damala Adajian, Xavier Hardy, Caleb Williams, Jaquavius Dodd, Jordan Gidron, like all these guys are like either a 4-star on 24/7, a composite 4-star, and you still have like the guys that I think are going to be really good, like a Jaquel Holman. Like I don't know where he's going to play, but he's going to be a hell of a player. DeMarcus Leach, he's going to be a hell of a player. Jaden Sellers, I think he's going to be a hell of a player. You just kind of go through and look at it.
I think the biggest thing that you look at this class is wide receivers. I mean, Mike Furry did an incredible job with this class, and thinking about who he signed. I mean, Malik Clark's one of the top receivers in the country, and they had to, overcome the commitment to Florida State, and they did that. But you got guys like Donovan Murph and Jordan Gidron in there who, could help out right away. And all these guys just have speed. Brian Rowe, Lex Cyrus, just speed guys. And, it's going to be interesting to see how some of these guys, I think a guy like, Jaden Sellers, who may be under the radar a little bit, but I think he could make an impact. And it's going to be interesting to see with these guys, what I think a spring's going to be big for a lot of these guys, because they need to, they're probably, some of these guys are going to be relied on. But, what I'm interested to see is when they get onto the special teams, can these guys help there? Those guys have return experience. I think this year you had, Nick Harbor returning kicks. You had Juju McDowell returning punts, Jalen Kilgore returning punts. But I'm interested to see what this wide receiver class can do from that standpoint, along with what they can bring to the table offensively. But just as a class as a whole, it seems like it's a solid class. It's one that you can build a lot of, high-end players you can build around. And, I think the biggest thing that I look at from this class is just what they were able to do at wide receiver, knowing what the need was there and able to land 6 guys that are, anybody in the country or everybody in the country wanted each one of those guys.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it's also a key that, you got you got 2 4-star offensive tackles from the high school ranks. The offensive line has been a position that, look, guys kick around the offensive line. I'm not going to sit here and say that, you got your starting left tackle and your starting right tackle. I don't know. Some guys play guard, some guys play center, some guys just play tackle forever. But, to compound on what they've done the last couple of years on the offensive line, I thought was big to go get, elite players based on what all the recruiting analysts think and what the other coaches think that offered them. So excited for this class. I always say, Alex, I can list off all these teams that are ranked ahead of South Carolina in the recruiting rankings, but let's look at this. Let's look at how many players are still in each class. I used to say 3 or 4 years from now, or how many players went to the NFL or whatever. Now I'm just going to say how many of these players are in every single class next year. You know what I mean? Like, who's still on campus? But if you're going to have to start somewhere, you want to start in the top 20 and then work your way up. And that's where the Gamecocks are. Alex, I'm going to tell you something pretty crazy. Today is January 29th. Do you know what happens in 16 days from now?
I don't. What happens?
Well, the first thing is Valentine's Day. So if you haven't got your significant other something, Alex, you need to. And everyone in the chat box, if you haven't, you need to. But the second thing is it is opening day at the ballpark for the baseball team. And they are going to be dedicating the field to Ray Tanner. It should be a memorable evening. If you all can get there, I know it's a tough day, Valentine's, all that. But Gamecocks baseball will be opening up their regular season, and hopefully for Gamecock fans making their way to the College World Series and maybe getting one more championship that Gamecock fans desperately want. But Alex, I mean, it's so fun. Like, this is the time of the year where, I was thinking about today, actually. I love college football. I love college basketball. I love Gamecock baseball. I love watching. I can't follow every team in the country. Like, it's tough because it's a 9-inning game. You really can't flip around, but baseball is one of my favorite sports to watch. And especially at the college level, I can't really get into MLB outside the Braves. Like, I can't watch the Padres play the Diamondbacks, but I can watch the Gamecocks play, 4 or 5 times a week. And it's always fun. So get ready, get ready to go to Founders Park. It's going to be here before you know it. The spring game. Oh my gosh. Spring practice. It's a fun time to be around here. Yeah, I mean, Alex, I think you picked the right job covering the beat for a college athletics program because, like, you never have a dull day. You always have something to write about. You always have something to put your opinion on it. And I know everyone at the Big Spur very much appreciates you. I appreciate you being on this show every week with me. You are the absolute best co-host in the business. I appreciate you to no ends, but that is going to do it for us tonight. We appreciate everybody for listening. Look, when you listen, you give us the most valuable thing you have, which is your time. And we never take that for granted. So thank you. Just looking ahead, Alex, I'm going to pull this up right now. Gamecocks men's basketball team. We already talked about the women's next couple games. Alex mentioned this earlier, but have a home game this Saturday against Texas A&M. Just going to be another Bear. 18th in the country on Ken Palm, Texas A&M. And then there is no midweek game next week. So you have a game this Saturday, and then you have another game 1 week from 3 days from now, whatever it is, Saturday. So February 1st, February 8th. So we will still have our show, but we're going to have our show on Wednesday night next week. So we'll just stick with this Wednesday. We'll try and get more news to roll in. So we're not doing a Tuesday show. We'll see what flows through. But Wednesday night, 8 p.m., we'll be here, the Late Night Gamecock Show. As always, I'm Matt Anderson. As always, this is Alex Jones. Looking at it, you follow Alex on Twitter, follow me on Twitter. I'm trying to get better, I promise. But Alex is all over it. So we appreciate all of y'all. We hope you all have a great rest of your evening. Go watch a Netflix show. I think that Alabama and Mississippi State are about to tip off in less than 1 minute. But find something fun to do tonight. Have a great weekend. Hopefully the Gamecocks bring that victory back for all the Gamecock fans. And we will talk to you next week. Y'all have a great one. See ya.